But let's return to the vile neo-Nazi rally now. To find out exactly what went wrong, I interviewed New South Wales Police Commissioner Mal Lanyon at his office earlier today. Mal Lanyon, thank you very much for your time today.
It's a pleasure, Shari.
When did you first find out about the protest and what was your reaction to it?
It was one of surprise. I found out on Saturday morning after the protest had taken place when I was briefed. It was not something that I'd personally been briefed on.
Did you find out through the police chain because there were officers there, or did you find out from the New South Wales government?
I found out from the New South Wales government.
That's a problem, isn't it?
Absolutely, and I think I've been fairly open on the fact that that sort of communication issue, that sort of process needs to be changed, and I've taken steps already to rectify that.
Right. Why was this protest allowed to go ahead?
So the process in terms of a protest is that an organiser lodges what's called a Form 1, which is a notice of an intention to conduct a public assembly. On that Form 1 they outline the reasons, what it is they're actually protesting against, where it is, how many people are going to be present. That goes to a police area command. They then consider that against the legislation. So looking at what's in the Form 1, consider it against the legislation, and also look at what's known of the group that have actually nominated. Based on that one there, it was felt that there wasn't grounds to oppose it.
Had you personally known about the protest, would you have allowed it to go ahead?
Well, it's not fair for me to second guess the decision of the commander at the time, and to be honest, based on the information that was in the Form 1, based on our legislation and what the previous interactions we've had with the group, the decision was not inappropriate. What I've said very clearly...
The decision wasn't inappropriate? You think the protest should have gone ahead?
Based on the legislation, I don't believe we had grounds to oppose it. What I've subsequently asked is our legal officer to provide me advice on the prospects of success of opposing it should there be another application.
In the Form 1 protest, didn't it specifically say that the protest was designed to oppose Jewish groups, Jewish lobby groups?
It said it was designed to protest Jewish lobby groups, but also the current hate speech legislation.
There's been such widespread outrage, including from the Premier and the Police Minister, saying this protest shouldn't have happened. And you're saying if you knew about it, it still would have gone ahead.
What I'm saying is that we have to operate within the legislation that exists at the moment. There has to be a balancing up. The Summary Offences Act, which we operate under, balances the rights to protest and free speech against the rights of public safety and disruption, and that's what we have to weigh up.
So you've said so far that the Form 1 went to the local area command, and that's where the issue arose, that it didn't escalate and make its way to you. But I understand it did also go to the police legal unit. Shouldn't it have been escalated from the legal unit to you? So
I'm advised that the police legal unit were asked to consider the flag that was going to, or the banner that was going to be raised at that actual protest. They determined that there was not a criminal offence by the wording that was in that banner. Absolutely, there are plenty of opportunities where I could have been personally informed of this. As I said, I've taken steps to rectify that so it doesn't happen again.
So it was the local area command, the legal unit also knew about it, and then I understand that the Sydney Morning Herald contacted the New South Wales Police Media Unit on Friday and also raised the issue that the neo-Nazis were planning something at Parliament House. Are you aware of that?
I'm not aware of that contact.
So this was a third avenue of contact. The Sydney Morning Herald, on the Friday before the protest took place, contacted the media unit.
I'm being as frank as I can. I was not personally informed that that protest was occurring.
Are you concerned, though, that this is 3 avenues that were not escalated to you? Surely that indicates a systemic issue in the police force.
I've made it clear it was a process issue, and I've asked that that process be remedied. That's underway at the moment.
Okay. So Premier Chris Minns only found out about this after the Herald contacted him on Saturday morning after a media query, and then his government contacted the police force. That's how you found out about it?
That's correct. So because I was unaware of it, I had not contacted the Minister to inform her and had not contacted government.
So you had police in attendance at a 1930s-style neo-Nazi rally, and none of the police thought to inform the executive?
Well, it was certainly known within the organisation. That protest comes up potentially on a spreadsheet. We have numerous protests. This year we've already had over 1,000 protests. Not all of those reach the executive, and I don't get briefed on all of them. What I'm disappointed about is one that was going to have so much obvious attention is one that I would have expected to know about.
But I'm not even talking about beforehand, I'm talking about after the fact, when you had police officers watching 1930s style neo-Nazi display outside Parliament House, and even then you weren't told about it.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, the actions that took place out, I understand the fear and intimidation they have caused parts of the community. From a policing perspective, management of that protest, there were no open offences, there were no violence that took place. We're now investigating the circumstances both by reviewing audio and video of that protest. If there are offences that are disclosed, we'll certainly take action. We've been very swift and decisive previously, and we'll continue to take appropriate action if people offend against the law.
So you're saying there's no offences, but Section 93ZAA of the Crimes Act, and this is the new version that was passed in August, it states that a person commits an offence if the person, by a public act, intentionally incites hatred towards another group, and the public act would cause a reasonable person who's a member of that group fear, harassment, intimidation or violence, or fear for the reasonable person's safety. So clearly it does seem to be in breach of that section of the Crimes Act, doesn't it?
So that's the reason we are investigating, and we'll have that legally examined. Intentionally incites hatred is one test that we need to prove. That's the one we'll work through at the moment. These types of groups intentionally skate through the grey area. They often say and do things that are right on the borderline of legality, and that's the reason why we need to investigate these things thoroughly.
But even Section 93ZAAB, if the public act, so that's the neo-Nazi rally outside Parliament House, would cause a reasonable person who was a member of that group, so an ordinary member of the Jewish community, fear, harassment or intimidation.
I've not said that there are no offences. I've said very clearly that we are investigating this matter thoroughly. We will take appropriate action.
But on that basis, couldn't police have made arrests on the spot? Clearly, neo-Nazis would cause the Jewish community fear and intimidation.
That's obviously a question that we need to consider legally. Police need to make decisions on the ground at the time. Often some of that legislation and some of those actions are challenging.
But how is there legal uncertainty about that? Neo-Nazis do cause fear and intimidation to the Jewish community. Shouldn't there have been instantaneous arrests?
I think we need to consider, obviously, it was part of a Form 1 process. These people lodged a Form 1. Under the Act, once you lodge a Form 1, unless the police oppose it, it is taken to be authorised. That being the case there, them being present in a public place has been considered as part of the legislation applicable under the Summary Offences Act. What I want to do is make sure that from this way forward, the investigation identifies if there's offences, and it will certainly inform our actions going forward.
I mean, to an ordinary person watching this, it would just sound like excuses, because the law is there. It says it is an offence if a public act, a rally outside Parliament House, would cause a group fear or harassment.
That's exactly why we're working through this process. As I said, these people gather, they use the process under the Summary Offences Act. It's important now that legally we identify if they have committed offences. Some of that legislation, as you were going through there, does require a balance from a legal perspective.
Their faces were not covered. Do you know the identities of most of the 67 men who were there?
I do believe so.
Okay. Do you expect there will be arrests or criminal penalties?
Certainly, if we identify that there have been criminal offences committed. That's why I've committed to a thorough investigation. I want to examine all of the actions. We have video and audio that we're currently reviewing. If we identify offences, we will identify and take action.
You know who they are?
We will be able to identify those people.
You will be able to, or you do already know their identities?
We certainly, as a result of interacting with that group before, know a number of the people that are present. Our role as police is if someone has committed an offence and we don't know who they are, we'll identify them, but we have previously interacted with the group.
Is it correct that one of them is a member of a political party?
I don't know the answer to that, but I can say that the group themselves have indicated that they intend to become a political party.
Is there anything you can do? Is it in your power to prevent that from happening?
Certainly not for the police. That's a matter that they would have to follow the normal process if they wanted to become a political party.
I've spoken to lawyers this morning who are dealing with the law, and despite the recent changes to 93ZAA, they say it's not fit for purpose because of that term inciting violence. They say that threshold legally is still too high and that it should be altered to the promotion of hatred. Would the promotion of hatred, would that make it easier for police to do their job and make those arrests?
So obviously legislation is a matter for government. Police enforce legislation. I've certainly indicated to you in terms of that specific indictment, that is one of the things we need to prove. That's why at the moment we are reviewing the evidence and considering it against legal.
It just seems like there's this pattern, whether it's the neo-Nazis or very aggressive pro-Palestinian protests, where police feel powerless to take action at the time, on the spot, and it needs to go to a legal unit and have months of examination to see if a law was broken and then try and track down the individuals, and sometimes it's not possible to do that.
I think, as you said, the legislation itself has a high legal test, and that's for obvious reasons. The right to free speech exists. We will investigate, we will get legal advice if required, and we will take action. What we do in terms of protests is we actually have legal advisors available to provide advice to police. So if they believe that there's an offence being committed, they can speak to one of our legal advisors and get advice. That's not always the case at a protest. It's not always easy to do that. That's why we do a great deal of work to actually review evidence after it and take appropriate action.
Were there legal advisors present on Saturday morning at this neo-Nazi rally? There
were legal advisors available if required.
Were they there on the spot?
I don't believe so.
I mean, do you admit that when you have neo-Nazis protesting outside Parliament House, 1930s Germany style, the laws are not fit for purpose if this is just allowed to go ahead?
I find their actions and their ideology abhorrent. As a police officer, the type of divisiveness that they are driving in community. Social cohesion is one of the biggest challenges we've got at the moment, and I think the Director of ASIO spoke about that the other night. This is not what we want to see on the streets of New South Wales, but as police we need to work within the legislation that actually exists.
Do you think there's an argument that this group should be considered under the Terrorism Act for listing?
I think they certainly haven't been declared at the moment. We would need to look at the motives and whether they actually fit within that. It's probably one that we would look at more broadly.
Is that something you'd like to see considered?
I think it needs to be looked at as a whole, but I think their actions as they are at the moment may not meet the definition.
I mean, just finally, this would be very frustrating for people watching this interview to hear you say that police are powerless to take action when you have such a grotesque display of hatred outside the heart of our democracy. What's your response to this?
No, I disagree that we can't take action, and I think that's the most appropriate thing. If we set aside the actual Summary Offences Act as to whether a protest can occur, what we are very cognizant of the fact is the actions of those participants when they're at the protest. We have previously taken swift and decisive action. We will support the community. We are there for community safety. I'm incredibly proud of our police officers. They do a wonderful job. They've policed over 1,000 protests this year, and I think the fact that in general they have been peaceful is a testament to the skill of the New South Wales Police Force. But I want to reassure the community that we are there for their safety, and that is what we will focus on.
It's not just physical safety though. This group, there's a risk that they radicalise other young people, and all the publicity has in fact worked as a recruitment effort to them. Is that a concern?
Absolutely it is. I think giving a group like this oxygen is concerning to me. We don't want people to attach to a group with this type of ideology. Being completely discriminating against other races, other cultures, is not something that we want in society, and it's not the New South Wales that I know, or certainly that the New South Wales Police stand for.
What's your message to the members of that group who were standing outside of Parliament House on Saturday?
I think empathy, respect and understanding is what we're looking for in society at the moment. I think it's what we're lacking. And to be honest, I think it's one of the key things that we need to focus on about social cohesion. We need people to be able to live together in harmony and peacefully.
Commissioner, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Sherry.